my previous episodes have been dealing with the situation at hand, and that is Corona and COVID-19. But as we see that unfold around the world, I think we need to understand a number of dynamics, and these dynamics include medical, they include what do we do as citizens, global citizens, to cope with the situation we find ourselves in right now. Coping could be on various levels. Some are financial, some are emotional, some are psychological. So we talk through all of those things, and therefore, over the last couple of days, I've been inviting various experts in different areas to talk you through some of the issues specifically related to a South African context, because right now I think every nation is dealing with issues within the context of their political, social climate. And likewise, as South Africans, we look at what affects us, which might not affect somebody else sitting on the other side of the world. One of the critical issues that I want to discuss is your finance, because I think people are up in arms about finances. But hey, we're all in the same situation, Mushfika. We're just all sitting there. And that's what it is.
Absolutely. And if there's one thing that I take heart in, it's the fact that it's not even only South Africa. People around the world, every other country, is experiencing exactly the same
No matter
thing.
what stone you're sitting under. Now, Mushfika is the head of research and consumer education at National Debt Advisors. So we invited her to specifically talk about finances within the South African context, and especially when we saw President Cyril Ramaphosa recently dealing with a particular relief program which is met by some relief by some people and met with criticism by some people. Mushfika, where do we start?
I think we need to start at the beginning. We need to say that we need to acknowledge that South Africa remains one of the most unequal countries in the world. And our equalities have never come to the fore as much as they have in this particular time. We are having different reactions to this from the different sectors of society. And one thing that I have found is that we are getting a lot of complaints and a lot of negativity surrounding the social relief, social debt relief grants that have come through from the president. But we're getting that from the privileged community. We're getting people who are living in nice homes and who are do still have a little bit of money coming in and who do still have a little bit of money in savings. Those are the ones who are passing criticism. Yet I'm finding, and I do work at ground level with people with finances, the people who are the recipients of the finances, the people who are the recipients of the 350 Rand per month for a unemployed person. 350 Rand per month in a time when you have nothing is a lot of money. So we have to look at it in, we have to gain perspective from this. To say, oh, 350 Rand a month is nothing. 350 Rand a month for one person might be nothing, but 350 Rand a month for another actually means that they have food.
Yeah, but most of these things that you're seeing right now are comments that are coming on a platform, Facebook, and many other social media platforms. And those particular people, in most cases, having these high-level debates of what should happen and should not happen, firstly has some level of education, they've got access to the internet, they've got a smartphone, and therefore they're having these issues that they can talk to people like yourself and myself about and yap away all day. The people that 350 Rand, in my view, can benefit probably is not sitting on these platforms because they're busy looking for food right now. And I want to talk about those issues with you. What does the lockdown mean to South Africans on the ground?
The lockdown to South Africans on the ground is probably not very different to what a lot of people in South Africa experience every day. Because we must realize that many people in South Africa are living in poverty. It has just been brought to the fore quite a bit more. We've got so many people who are now realizing, oh, my word, there are so many people that don't have. There are so many people that don't have That is the reality of the majority of people in South Africa. So when you say the lockdown has obviously the lockdown came into effect because we needed to do social distancing, we needed to do self isolation, we needed to do all of those things. And I'm a big supporter of that. I think we need to stay inside, we need to flatten the curve, we need to be able to do what we can to manage COVID 19 as best as we can. Because if we don't, we are going to stay under lockdown for far longer than what is initially anticipated.
You're obviously referring to from a medical and a viral perspective. And
Yes.
whilst I understand that there are other factors at play, I notice that there are people out there that are saying, yeah, but you were one of the people calling for the lockdown, but you do not care about the fact that I don't have food. And I so much want to say that you wouldn't need to worry about food when you are dead. I don't know if people realize that the primary issue is health. We understand. I mean, you're going to be lambasted for saying that you're okay with the lockdown, but we understand, and I hope that I don't know if I'm speaking for you too, that there are financial issues at stake, which I really want to go into with you. But at the
Yeah.
same time, there won't be financials at stake when this inside of your chest stops beating because of a virus.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what? And it's not to say, and again, it does not stem from a position of privilege where you say that you support the lockdown. It literally stems from a position of concern and a position of knowing that even in households where there is one income or no income, we cannot afford for people to be getting ill and then literally dying. And that is the reality of the situation. We are currently sitting with a scenario, and the projections are lower than what we expected. But the reality of the situation is that if COVID 19 isn't managed, it does kill. However, saying that, I have to make a point of saying that the reality of the privileged in COVID 19 is completely different to the reality of the disenfranchised in COVID 19, specifically in South Africa. As much as I say, oh no, stay inside, I can stay inside because I live in a house that has bed where all of my children have their own bedroom and we have our space and we are not in close contact with each other all the time. That is not the reality for very many South Africans. Very many South Africans live in a shack, live in a 1 or 2 bedroom council flat, live in, and we don't live 2, 3 in the shack, 2, 3 in the small council flat. It's 8, 9, 10 people living there. Again, these are all things which we have inherited, but it is the reality of our country today. It is the reality of our country that COVID 19 is exposing the inequality, and we have to find a way to we have to find a way to somehow level the playing fields. Whether it takes us the next 10 years, whether it takes us the next 100 years, we have to acknowledge that our biggest threat right now is not COVID 19. Our biggest threat right now is inequality and the poverty that it brings with it. And therefore, I want people to understand the 350 Rand, 250 Rand, 200 Rand, 300 Rand, 500 Rand might not seem much to you, but to the people who literally don't have food and electricity, it makes a huge, huge difference. So while the government is getting criticism, and there are separate issues which need to be looked at. Where is the money coming from? What are the interest rates? How are we going to pay it back? Blah, 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 blah. I get that.
I want to expand on that part with you very quickly. So the minute that announcement was made, I was busy doing something. I can't remember what I was doing, but the one thing I wanted to just see was I put up this Facebook post that just says 50 billion for the most vulnerable. And I put that post out there on social media just to try and determine what people are thinking and saying, because I mean, you know, that's why we sometimes put out the post, is to get...
Post, not necessarily because it's what we think.
Yes, correct. It's just to see what the opinion is so that we can carry that through in the media space and try to break that down to understand what and where people are thinking at the moment. And again, I'm saying that it is my opinion, Mushfika, and I don't know where you stand on this, but it was very concerning to me that the first questions were, where did it come from? Half of it is going to be stolen. Well, I mean, okay, that's a possibility in South Africa, we know that. But where did it come from? Where this? But nobody, or some people, worked out that it's some relief. And yet, if the president didn't put something on the table, then they would say, he didn't put anything on the table. Then when he put something on the table, where did it come from? Must we always do that? And I'm okay with doing that, but for the person out there that's not in touch with politics, it's not in touch with what's going on the tally and what's going on Facebook, that 350 rand or that 50 billion and the 500 billion overall means quite a bit to them. Why do we need to get into it right now?
It doesn't mean quite a bit, Faisal. It means survival.
Correct.
Because we have to remember that we've got everybody up in arms, and it's COVID-19, and it's COVID-19, and it's COVID-19, and what are we going to do and what are we going to handle? You must remember that as much as we're saying people can die from COVID-19, dead is dead. And people are dying from a lack of food. So when you're saying, 350 rand isn't a lot, 500 rand extra isn't a lot, you have to remember that 500 rand extra per child, that 350 rand, the 250 rand extra per disability grant, per old age pension grant, that is the difference between survival, alive, and dead. That could be. It is that severe. And I wish people could take a moment to realize it and put themselves in somebody else's position, put themselves in somebody else's standard and way of living. Again, it's very, very easy for us to sit and from our ivory towers. And people sort of say, but I'm not rich. We really have to get away from that. No, I'm not rich, and it's not me. It's not about being rich. It's about the fact that you're living in a house that has running water. It's about the fact that you actually have a bread and something to drink and something to eat for your entire family every day. That in itself is privilege. And we have to start acknowledging that. We have to start acknowledging that when we have, irrespective of the level of which we have, there are so many people who don't. And again, please don't get me wrong. I am not here asking you to apologize for your privilege. No, I'm rather saying we have to acknowledge, and it's a lesson to myself first. I include me, my kids, my husband, my family, my extended family. It's a lesson to myself and my family first, is to acknowledge that alhamdulillah, shukr alhamdulillah, by the grace and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are privileged. And therefore, it is unfair to stand in judgment of those who are not.
Indeed, Mushfika. I think it's about perspectives, and I think that people can have opinions, and that's great. And
Absolutely.
yes, and I think that we can ask where the money came from. But isn't it about timing? Do we ask where the money came from now, when somebody's waiting to have a loaf of bread and is dependent on that? Or do we ask after we've resolved the issue, where did the money come from? Because I wouldn't ask that question right now. Right now, for me, I see it on a grassroots level, the way that you probably do, and that is, can we take that money and make sure that money is dispersed so that people can eat? And let's ask the questions afterwards. That's my opinion.
You know what? Or let's ask the questions in let's ask the questions parallel to first seeing that we do see that the money gets dispersed. We do see that people are fed. Because that should be our core focus. I'm not saying you can't ask the questions. I'm just saying don't negate the value of somebody else's value simply because you are not receiving it, simply because it doesn't affect you.
And you don't need it. And you don't need it.
And you don't need it. So I'm not saying don't ask the questions. I'm one of those people. I'm an advocate for critical thinking. I'm an advocate for speaking out. I'm an advocate for everybody's opinion counting. What I am saying is to be belittling the efforts by government right now, to be belittling, to be constantly criticizing it, to be constantly looking for fault with it, when that effort is literally life and death to some people. And until we get to that point, until we realize what the extent of the poverty is in South Africa, until we realize that poverty and inequality is by far the bigger issue here that needs to be addressed now, after COVID-19, and for many generations to come still. We are going to sit with this view, but oh no, it's not enough. Oh no, it really doesn't count. I don't need that. I mean, what can you do with 350 Rand? 350 Rand saves lives.
So you did a little breakdown on what 350 Rand means in terms of tangible output. So 350 Rand for some people might mean something else, like it might just mean a couple of packets of cigarettes or something else. Not that they can purchase that right now, but I'm certain that's still going on, by the way. But 350 Rand from a survival perspective, you've put together some numbers and some items. Can you tell us about that? And I would like to, for our viewers, this is just an example of what Mushfiqa had broken down in terms of what one could constructively do with 350 Rand in a very dire straight position.
What we currently, what I came across a post on social media, and I thought it really was so telling, and it really read and it said, here is what 350 Rand can do for people. This is what 350 Rand can do for you. People should stop complaining from a point of privilege. 350 Rand buys 10 kilograms mealie meal, 2 liters of cooking oil, 5 kilograms of rice, a pocket of potatoes, eggs, 2 kilogram sugar, 2.5 kilogram flour, 2 kilogram frozen chicken. That is what 350 Rand buys.
Those are 8 essential items that you mentioned. And obviously, I think that, therefore I mentioned just before you started that 350 Rand means something different to different people. So the guy sitting on Facebook and yapping away all day, 350 Rand perhaps means some gigs of data and you're done.
Yes.
350 Rand for somebody out there means quite a bit. And don't get us wrong. I'm not, and I don't know if you're saying this, Mushfiqa, I'm not saying it's a mass load of money, but I'm saying that can we push down every effort that government's trying to make right now? Because the situation is difficult for everybody, including government, including healthcare workers, including citizens. Everybody's in it at the moment. Now, just going back to something else I want to discuss with you, the backbone of our economy, in my view, is small business. Yes. And small business employs people. They feed many people across this land. All of them are in some type of trouble because safety nets were perhaps not there. No one predicted what was going on. They cannot pay staff for the next 6 months because money hasn't been put into the bank for that type of thing, and rightly so. Understandable, it's called small business.
Lots of small businesses don't have safety nets. It literally is employing people and going from month to month.
Correct, yeah. What is the situation around small business? Where should their minds be right now? Because I can tell you that I've been chatting to a number of people. I've been phoning people on different levels, different, even professionals in terms of people that are, for example, lawyers and so whatever, that one would kind of think of professionals and are able to slide past it, but they can't always because they also run a business at the same time. And they've got other people working for them. And then the basic stores and little items that people sell and so and the other. Where and what is the advice from your side to them right now?
Well, right now, there's also a lot going around that says there's a lot of information on social media, via the media, about the debt relief that has been made available for small businesses. And I'm very much of the opinion that small businesses should be applying for this debt relief. Yet, we do also know there are quite a few small businesses who are not registered and who are not in the position to apply for that.
So they've got something. There's something that's maybe lacking. So they're maybe afraid because I didn't submit a SARS return or whatever it might be or whatever.
Yeah, you know, that's always going. There's quite a few people who are there's paperwork that's not in order. There's this, but they have been contributing to the economy. So now you get the scenario where people say, "Oh well, they're not registered. They are not entitled to any benefits." Yes, legally and administratively, they are not. What would you suggest that they do? Because right now, then,
But they still had Pamela, Peter, and John working for them in the hair salon, and they were still feeding 3 families
exactly.
per month. Yeah.
I think that is something that we need to be looking at. And then again, as a community, how do we then actively support these small businesses during lockdown, the ones who cannot access and the ones who can access funding? Something that is very, very important for me is that the owners of small businesses right now actually take the time to sit down and to, get a roadmap, get a blueprint for their business. Through the situation, we have a lot of time on our hands. We can actually go out and sit down and sit quietly and say, okay, all is not lost. What can I do? How can I change my marketing plan? Do I have a business plan? Go onto the internet, Google business plan. There are various templates, there are various steps and directions showing you what a business plan is. Take the time to do it. You've got absolutely nothing to lose. Take the time to segment your market, resegment your market. Take the time now to look at what other small businesses are doing on social media and perhaps put together a social media plan. Perhaps set aside some money for data and try and reinvent themselves. What we can do, Faizal, there's something that we can do. Those of us who are in the position who regularly used to support a small business. If I know for a fact I used to buy my savories, and irrespective of it being the month of Ramadan, I used to buy 100 samosas or 100 pies somewhere. Put the order in. Do the EFT via your app.
I did that yesterday. Strangely enough, I'm not usually one that does any of the shopping, and I don't get involved with stuff like that, like my dad and everyone around does those type of things. And so if you ask me, I know that you're going to find me blasphemous from a consumer perspective, but if I walk into a shop and you charge whatever for a bread, I wouldn't know what a bread cost. I know that you're going to find me blasphemous. I'm never in a shop. I don't like stores. I don't like shopping malls. I just prefer being in front of my laptop and at home or somewhere in the studio, whatever it might be. And so yesterday, because of the situation we find ourselves in, and as you know, I've been adapting to the loss of my mother, and that adaptation is not only an emotional adaptation, but also a physical one. So while she said all the years, you need to learn, one day I'm not going to be here, you need to learn to cook. You need to, I'm like, no, like I never saw it coming. And now she's gone and like, Mommy used to make this, that and the other, and that all just stopped in one go. Now I'm sitting and how much eggs can I eat per week that I can, the only thing I can do is boil an egg. So now we had to find a solution. And the next best thing was to try and to get an air fryer. So this means I can just take the stuff and pop it in there. But last night I told my father that, okay, in my view, I'm sorry, some people might say it's not an essential item. It is for me because I can't cook. I don't know what more to do, right? And also, what I was living on for the last couple of months was being able to go to one of the stores and get a drive-through and pick up a lunch or something. And that's not working either anymore because they're all closed. And what I simply did was I went onto the Facebook market last night, found a local guy in our community that's selling an air fryer, and we're making arrangements to get that to me, and I paid him last night an XYZ because I worked out who he was and people trust him and so whatever. And again, he's sitting there at home with a load of appliances that he bought for resale with lots of money tied up in stock. Now I could have easily walked into a store somewhere in Canal Walk and try and find that item somewhere or the other, but in line with what you're saying, we can support each other in some way or another. We can.
Definitely we can.
We just need to put the effort into it.
A little bit of effort.
Yeah.
And again, if you've been buying from somebody over the months, pay them what you would normally spend on them. And then after the lockdown, inshallah, get it from them.
Yes, correct. Correct.
If
Yes.
you're somebody that goes to a hair salon for every month for a treatment, March, April, May, whilst we're under lockdown, I'm not saying we're under lockdown in May, but when we are in lockdown and that hair salon can't trade, if you are still receiving your normal income, make the payment to your hair salon. You'll go and get that treatment when lockdown is done. Let's try and think of ways that we can still support these small businesses. Let's try and think of ways that we can still support each other. Because if not now, then when? When do we band together? When do we say, you know what, it's not about it's not about you and me and us and them. It literally is about all of us. We are all in this together right now. And there's not one household, unless you are of the ridiculously rich, and then you can get my number from Faizal, say it, I can be your friend. But there's nothing. There's no household that I know of. And last night before I knew I was coming onto the show today, so I called around to different people in different industries, and not one industry was not affected. Not one industry was not affected by it. So yes, there are people who are lucky enough to be still getting their full salaries. But very seldomly do you find both people in the home, both salary earners in the home, still getting their full salary. And something that we have to be cognizant of is that this is not only affecting the very poor in our community. Every sector of society is being affected, from the low income to middle income to upper income. And something that I want to make a point of, don't think that because somebody is upper middle income or upper income that their lives have not been affected and it's any different. If you were earning a salary of 40,000 Rand a month and your 40,000 Rand a month is taken away in its entirety, you are in a worse position than somebody who is still earning 4,000 Rand a month.
Correct, yes. Mushrika, we've reached the end of the program. I want to just extend an invite to you to come back on the show perhaps next week sometime as things develop.
There's so much more that we could discuss.
Of course, yes. And we also note that the situation around COVID-19 and coronavirus in particular is something that tends to be evolving all the time. So what we're doing today might not be relative next week, and something new develops so that we can counter this one day at a time. You're making me think of Michael Jackson at this time. I was a fan when I was small, but when you said you are not alone, you know, so, and you said heal the world, and I think all of those little titles are just coming up in my head as you're busy talking right now. But thank you for coming on the show. We're going to be in touch soon just to get you back to discuss.
And if I could just put it out there, everyone. You know what? Times are tough, but so are we. We will get through this, inshallah. And just wishing everyone a spiritually beneficial Ramadan, inshallah.
Thank you, Mushrika. Mushrika is talking about some of the financial issues and implications and how we can try and work around all of that. I'm going to have her back as a guest again. Just my point to small business. Mushrika has given you some great advice, and you know you're the backbone of our economy. And what you need to do here is you need to get with it, in my view. I contact small business and I find you're not online. You haven't embraced the Facebook market yet. You haven't embraced many online platforms for you to continue trying to trade from where you are, trying to find means of doing things. You need to get with it if you want to be with it. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.